afternoon, class. My name is Giselle and this is Leslie. We're here at the Belle Glade Skills Lab. Just wanted to go ahead and further discuss with you about cultural diversity. Me and Leslie have chosen to discuss a little bit furthermore with regards to our personal experiences on the Hispanic culture. I'm actually of Cuban descent and Leslie here is of Mexican descent. So Leslie, thank you for being with us. Thank you for joining us. Really quick here, Leslie, were you born and raised in the United States or?
Well, I was born in Bronzeville, Texas. So it's real close to the border, with the Mexican border. And I moved over here when I was 5, so I basically grew up here in Belle Glade, where there's a high population of Spanish culture and of Jamaican and Haitian culture as well.
Okay. I was actually born and raised in Miami, so it's funny. I too have a large, in Miami there is a large population of Cubans, Haitians, just a ton of cultural diversity. But the Hispanic population there is very strong. It's very heavy. So moving forward, tell me a little bit more about your Mexican culture. Tell me, as far as how do patients perceive pain in your culture?
Well, for my culture, the Mexican culture, growing up, I did see a lot of things like the males tend to be more closed off when it comes to pain. So if they are experiencing it, they won't be upfront about it. You really have to dig in and ask them, hey, are you in pain? Or sometimes you just have to look at the nonverbal cues and see that he's grimacing or that they're really in pain. Older people as well, my grandmother did not like to show pain. So you gotta pay attention to stuff like that. Younger kids and like kind of our generation, they're more easygoing about saying if they have pain or not. But pain for different age groups and, like I said, male and female can be different because some women will be more outspoken about it and some won't.
I can definitely agree with you in those scenarios. It's true. As far as the Cuban culture, men tend to be a little bit more macho, like we have to be tough, boys don't cry. So it's kind of like the same as the American culture, but women do tend to have a little bit more of a softer side, and they do show their emotions either verbally or you can actually physically see them displaying these emotions. They'll grimace, like you said, they'll crunch, but for the most part, yeah, they're very vocal about their pain. So what pain relieving measures based on your culture?
Well, there's different kind of things that they do. I don't know about Cubans, but we do have herbal remedies. We have people called curanderas. They're kind of like folk healers kind of thing. And when you're in pain, you don't automatically go to the doctor. You don't automatically take pain medications. Sometimes you'll go, let's say you fell and hurt your ankle. Most of the time, some people don't take their kids to the hospital or they don't take themselves to the hospital. They go to that curandera and they have them like massage their leg or wherever they injured, wrap it and put like maybe like a Hispanic cream. It's like a pain cream. They use that. If that doesn't work, then obviously they'll go on to maybe some kind of pain meds like an ibuprofen or something, but they won't really go straight into the hospital and be like, okay, I'm in really bad pain, give me a Percocet or anything like that. So yeah,
it's true. It's true. In the Cuban culture, at least my family, most of the times we'll try home remedies before, they'll tell you, oh, you have a stomach ache or you have a cold.
Or take some Pepto.
Yeah, Pepto. Another thing that's very popular, have some chicken soup. They'll offer that first to try
caldito de pollo.
Yes. Right. Or the other thing that they'll do is they highly believe in that the
Vaporub, everything.
You put
Vaporub. If it itches, put Vaporub. If it hurts, put Vaporub. You can't breathe, rub it on your chest and you're okay.
And it's kind of disheartening too because they try all these remedies and sometimes they don't work and sometimes they can actually exacerbate whatever symptom they have. So when they show up to the hospital,
they don't even tell what they did. So now we're giving them medications and it's like all over the place.
It's very difficult and tricky. Another thing that at least my culture does, because we're the Cuban population is predominantly religious. We do have people that do practice Santeria. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's kind of like witchcraft, where they like cast spells and they do all these sacrifices. I don't do that.
Yeah.
So
Well, some Mexican cultures do that too. They do practice the religion of Santeria as well. It just depends on what kind of people they worship. Some people worship the Santa Muerte, or some people worship just like all kinds of gods and stuff like that. But predominantly, I know most Hispanics that I know here in Belle Glade, a lot of them are Catholic. You will have your
same
Pentecostals, or you will have your Seven Adventists.
Seven Adventists, yeah.
Yes, and then you also have your Jehovah Witnesses are a lot of the Hispanic culture.
So then I take it that just the same in Mexican and Hispanic culture, those who have a spiritual, I guess, connection or higher belief, they'll usually tend to go to prayer
to kind of relieve some of the pain. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that. And how do you feel that you can become culturally competent, as a future nurse taking care of Hispanic patients if you don't know about the Hispanic culture?
Well, if you don't know the Hispanic culture, obviously, if you can't communicate with your patient, the first thing you would do is try to get that communication established, whether it be getting somebody who's an expert at doing the translation, or if there's no way to get that translator on the phone yet, maybe a fellow coworker, a nurse, somebody who is a professional, not like the family member or anything, get to have that person to translate for you. If some of that's not working, then you could always do some kind of nonverbal communication, maybe some pamphlets or something with pictures and kind of like showing what's wrong with them, if they're in pain, if they have any kind of issues. Just make sure you kind of pay mind to the older generation. Some older generation can't read, or one, because they can't see, or two, because maybe at their age they just barely came from maybe a foreign country like Mexico, and I know some people don't even get it past like the second grade. So you just got to be very open-minded to whether they're receiving the information, whether they understand you, and whether they're like willingly going to tell you.
I feel like another thing that our fellow future nurses can do is also partake and immerse themselves in the actual culture, attend parties. They have like quinceañeras. We have quinceañeras in Mexico, and we do the same thing in Cuba. So immerse yourself in the culture, the foods, their practice, traditions, so you can become a little bit more attuned to your patient's needs and to their customs and traditions. Another really good thing to do,
learn their religion.
Learn the religions.
Because when they're in the hospital, when they're in the hospital, sometimes they won't want to talk to you because of their religion. Sometimes, I know Jehovah Witnesses do not take blood products or any kind of any kind of medication that goes inside your body. So they're very strict about that. So just kind of get to know your patient. Ask them, is there any reason why you don't want to take treatment? Will there be any complications when we go to kind of help you get better?
Okay, so how do Hispanics communicate? We're showing it here.
Well, obviously, there's a lot of hand movements.
There's a lot of hand movements.
Yeah, when you get comfortable with somebody, it's a lot of hand movements. They tend to be louder. They tend to be softly spoken. It just all depends. Cubans, I don't know. Some Hispanics, some Mexicans are loud, but you have those that are real reserved. Like my grandparents are quiet. When they're together with like just family, they're outspoken. But like when we're in public and stuff, it's more like a quiet, more and it's just like they kind of keep an eye contact with you. But most of the time, as children, we're taught not to look in the eye to our grandparents and stuff like that. Kind of just give them your attention, but not stare at them. It's like disrespectful for us. So you just learn to.
Okay, that's different because like we don't do that in my. It's funny that you said in my household.
It just all depends. It all depends. Even then, because sometimes my mom would be like, "Look at me," and I would have to look at her in her eyes. It just all depended on how you were being talked to, or if it was like a situation where you needed to look at the parent to make sure you were understanding.
Gotcha. Yeah, in my household, it's like a sign of respect. It's very important to
eye contact.
Yeah, eye contact, and make sure you look and you.
Eye contact was taught like for people that you meet. So when you're looking at your parents, it kind of not a big deal to do it. For like if you meet somebody or you go out, you're supposed to look at them in their face and shake their hand and say hi, how are you today? But for other than that, like if you're talking to your parent, sometimes they will say, no, don't look at me because I'm talking to you, listen, or vice versa. They'll be like, look at me,
so
listen to me.
Let me ask you this. What can a nurse expect coming across like a Hispanic when they come